going in that, you know, writing the script would be hard and figuring out how to do all we wanted to do would be difficult. But no question, the hardest thing was how do you cast these iconic characters again?
How do you have new actors come in and give them the rope and the freedom to go out and create a character of their own, but simultaneously have the heart and the persona that these great actors had created for the last 40 years?
The power and the goodwill of Star Trek, I think, gave us a better cast than we might have otherwise had. We found out, as usual with so much of the cast, how much they love Star Trek. It's a call to duty. Starfleet is calling, and it's going to be really hard to turn it down.
I'm really impressed with the casting on this movie. Not only are they people who really know what they're doing and how to do it, but have the characteristics they can bring that will reflect on the characteristics of the original cast and will extend on that.
To find Zachary Quinto, who, you know, Spock was like, we just couldn't understand how we were going to ever find the right guy to play Spock. We were amazed and relieved beyond words to find Zachary Quinto.
There was a board about this new Star Trek movie that they were doing, and somebody wrote something about me playing Spock on it. And it really ignited this idea in me. I was like, I want to play Spock.
When he came in and read, he was just so perfect that he was undeniably perfect.
There were strangely moments where he actually looked like Leonard, like when his head was tilted at certain angles.
As soon as he walked out of the room, we looked at each other and said, well, you know, one down.
He managed to capture the very essence of Spock, and it was really uncanny sometimes working with him. I couldn't see Zach.
I think particularly for Zach, who's going to have to act against the original Spock, you can imagine that on paper that seems like a kind of a daunting task.
It's a daunting prospect on any level, you know. These characters are so revered and cherished the world over, and people take it very seriously.
Well, they sent me some footage of him. I immediately saw that there was enough resemblance and a load of talent. No problem. Thank you very much, and let's go to work.
We wanted to make sure that he didn't have pressure to impersonate him or to be the same character. This goes back to the premise of the movie, which is that there are slight alterations in the universes from what came before. So this is a new story, and as such, the characters are in situations in which none of the original actors ever found themselves.
If the time continuum was disrupted, our destinies have changed.
We're bringing our own life to them, and we're entering into these characters at a very specific point in their journey. So my Spock and Leonard's Spock are very different people.
On the other hand, the spirit of Leonard's performance as Spock is so clearly present in what Zachary was doing, because they're both very smart guys approaching the same character.
I think he's going to be able to flesh out a lot of areas that were suggested or hinted at, but not totally fleshed out dramatically and emotionally.
I feel anger. Live long and prosper.
Leonard and Zachary met at Comic-Con in San Diego, and it was weird because they look so much alike in some ways.
It was a very sort of surreal moment. They like timed it so I walked in just as he was like getting out of his car, and then we were like all of a sudden just in this elevator. It was like really kind of bizarre to be then. I was like, hi, Leonard. And then his first real words to me, he was getting out of the elevator and he was like, you have no idea what you're in for.
The coolest thing was being backstage, and Mr. Nimoy's wife, Susan, was back there, and she was looking at Zachary, and she said, this is creepy.
Leonard was incredibly helpful to Zachary in terms of talking him through not just sort of, you know, practical things about ears and eyebrows, but just about sort of what the character meant to him and how to approach it.
How you doing?
Okay, good. How are you? He was incredibly generous with his time and his energy, and that made the initial entry into the preparation a lot easier for me.
When you say fascinating, I'm going to respond with yes. We talked about how I arrived at certain aspects of the character, a certain kind of way of thinking through the thought process of the character, posture, physical posture we talked about.
A lot of the things that we talked about were much more rooted in the psychology of this character and sort of where he comes from and how he looks at things. But I'm very protective of it's interesting because I'm not usually like that, but I feel like a lot of the things that I spoke to Leonard about, I'm really interested in just sort of keeping for myself.
big hurdle was Chris, because we didn't have Kirk. How do we find someone who will embody this character and be ridiculously funny, ridiculously smart, ridiculously, cocky and outspoken, and make him real?
A lot of people came in, incredible actors, and there was one day we were in casting, JJ and I, and in the waiting room, Zach had showed up, and Chris Pine happened to be there the same day.
I ended up reading with him there with JJ, and I knew right away. I was like, that's the guy. It's just, there's just something about him,
As acting captain of this vessel, I order you to answer the question.
Well, I'm not telling, acting captain.
Chris just came in and just killed it.
Oh, baby, I'm the smartest.
Hey, ladies.
Anything else?
Ultimately, when Chris came in, he so embodied everything we needed Kirk to be. He was both a rebel and, just felt highly unpredictable in a great way.
And more importantly than that, when that person walks onto the bridge of the Enterprise, you need to believe that they have command authority.
Mr. Sulu, prepare to engage thrusters. I won't lie, it's been incredibly overwhelming to step into the role that Mr. Shatner created. It is such an iconic, specific role in, the canon of film and TV history.
Kirk here.
What's your prognosis, Doctor?
Obviously, William Shatner has a rhythm and a cadence to his dialogue that's so specific, especially as Kirk. And I think the mistake would have been to ask Chris to copy that in some way. So the goal was to figure out what the spirit of Captain Kirk was really all about.
Starfleet Command has ordered us to rescue them, Captain. I talked to JJ about it in the beginning of the process, and we kind of made a mutual decision that it would be a mistake to try to recreate what Mr. Shatner had done and to kind of forge a new path. And there's certain qualities of Kirk that you can't ignore and that it is in the character, but to try to mimic Mr. Shatner would just be a mistake.
This is Captain James Kirk, Spock, USS Enterprise. True.
Chris Pine isn't good at acting, but he is good at push-ups.
Your shoes are down, sir.
Chris is he's not all there. Chris is awesome. He's a wonderful actor. He's a great guy. He does a fantastic homage to Shatner. He can take it till you're laughing yourself silly, or he can take it where you go, that's a tiny bit of Shatner that he's just letting in there to remind us that that's who the guy became. It was fantastic.
Zoe Saldana is Uhura. She's so beautiful, and she's so sort of petite, and she's got these big, wide eyes, and yet she could kill you. She is so tough, and so I loved the dichotomy in that.
I'm assigned to the Farragut?
It was an attempt to avoid the appearance of favoritism.
No, I'm assigned to the Enterprise.
Yes, I believe you are.
Thank you.
I'm very much a very tough broad. I'm from New York, and I'm the only female in a cabin full of men.